Hey, gun people. Let's talk about, got a couple of emails and questions on when can cops come into your house? I can't tell if I'm in that camera. I think I am. When can cops come into your house? Now, and is somebody, one person gave me an incident where some guys came over, they were kind of plain clothes, and are they cops? Do they have to be in uniform? The uniform thing is very iffy for police. I mean, as long as somebody, a detective, if I'm working a suit, if I'm going to court and I'm in a suit and I'm doing follow-up that day, or I'm going to, you know, a lawyer's office for whatever, or deposition, or some other issue, and I'm a cop and I need to do a follow-up or do something, basically me showing your badge and an ID card. Most people think a badge is good enough. And when cops show their badge, because we show it all the time, and we know we're legit, it's usually going to be quick. I mean, I kind of got dressed down a little bit because I used to work kind of in this formation like this a lot. And then if we had to go to someone's house, I would simply pull my badge out, make contact, they would see my badge. Rarely did anybody ever ask for my ID card. Now, you know, you can get fake badges, you can buy them, a badge isn't necessarily the things you want to look for. Security guards get badges, fire department gets badges. Some of them are different. Some like cop DAs, attorneys, they get badges. So I mean, badges are kind of, you know, but most people kind of, as soon as they see a badge, they're okay with that. I usually kept mine in here when I was working undercover. Then if we were going on the scene, we'd pull it out in case another cop pulled up. They would recognize us. If I was working, I would have my web belt underneath me, like so. Then if like this jacket is considered an undercover jacket, if we were going in or something happened and I was worried about the police coming and backing me up, or I want to make sure I was identified, you got little flaps you can just pull out. Those flip out. I have a big one in the back that you can pull out. And then when I put my badge out, and I can either roll this jacket up over and expose my gun and my gear, or I can just undo my gun and gear and put it over the jacket. If I knew I was going out, I could tuck this jacket in my pants and then just wear my belt around here with a badge here. I usually carried a badge on here also, so if they saw my web gear. In California, there was a issue about if you're following, or if you're chasing someone code 3, you have to be in a uniform, and a uniform must be more than a gun belt and a badge. So that other police vest that you see me in my other videos, it looks like a football jersey mesh with big yellow letters. When I was driving around in an undercover car, if I had that on and I got in a pursuit, by law, technically they couldn't say that he wouldn't have, I didn't know he was a cop. Even though my car had flashing lights and flashing headlights and red and blue lights and solid red light and a siren, and you know, I'd pull my badge out so it was exposed. Even though I did all that, I wanted to make sure that I had some sort of high profile in case I had to get out of the car and chase somebody. There was one incident, the chief of the highway patrol, the head guy, was, of course he don't drive himself around because California's got so much money and CHP is so elite. He's got a limo that drives him around with a CHP. So I'm pulling out of a gas station one time in Sacramento and some dude flips me off or does something and runs a red light. Because I was looking at him, he was driving a car, I was like trying to see if there was a key in the car, I was working auto theft, and I'm like, damn, what if that car's stolen? So he saw me looking over there, and he's like, hey, motherfucker, and he flips me off, and then just runs a red light, and I went, well, that's pretty good PC. So I pop my lights on, and then he starts going around all kind of cars driving, holy shit, he's really good at run. So I get on the radio, and I run the plate and call him the car's stolen. He jumps a fence, and we're on a highway, so I end up pulling over real quick, jumping a fence and chasing him, leaving my car, it was a pickup truck at that time, so the lights are flashing. The head CHP guys comes driving by, his lazy ass and his officer that driving him didn't even stop and try to help me. They just got on the radio and go, hey, Sack, you got somebody chasing somebody. So at least they called something in. I was on a different radio. When you're working in different cities, there's all kind of radios. I mean, because my jurisdiction, we roved around a lot and it took us all over California, you know, I may be working on one county's radio when I go into another county. And then there's a statewide channel that you can go to and have the dispatch turn on when you're working out of county. But in Sacramento County, there's Sac Sheriff and then there's Sac PD, and they're both different agencies. So when I was working with the Sac Sheriff and we were on a task force working in that area, when we were in Sac PD, they were on a different radio. So we would always use SAC Serif radio. Well, CHP is on their own radio. They're not on SAC PD or SAC, so they go up and down the state, and they won't let any other agency have their radio. So you have to go to the state, but whatever. So he's on one radio calling in that I'm chasing somebody. I'm on SAC SO radio calling and I'm in a pursuit. And technically we're in SAC PD's area. So SAC PD's not hearing any of this. We ended up catching a guy, got a dog, got away, caught him, whatever. But the issue about when you chase or when you identify somebody as a police officer, and I'll make a second video on when you come in the house here because I kind of got off track, and this is, I'll just go over identifying police officers. It's usually better if they're in plain clothes to get an ID card. Now if they're in uniform, a full police uniform, and you ask for an ID card, cop's going to get a little irritated. Can you ask for it? Sure. Should he show you? Yeah. Because the ID card and the badge should match up. You have the name. A cop, when he has his name tag on his badge, a lot of cops will say, you know what, I got my name tag here, here's my badge number, I ain't showing you nothing else. And I mean, can you complain? Yeah, it depends on the agency. Do they want to, you know, they want every cop going out there digging out his wallet, okay, here's my ID card, I'm in uniform, so you have to use a little bit of judgment there. But in plain clothes, if somebody comes to your door and they say, I'm a cop, and there's so many agencies out there, I mean, God, I can't even remember the number of agencies in California when we were working. I mean, how many they have, you know, because each county has their own, and then you have the marshals, and then you have the county local marshals, and then you have some states have the state marshals, then you have the state DOJ, Department of Justice, or Texas, they have the state Texas Rangers, you have your county police, you have your constable, you have your local city police. So there's just so multitude of agencies. The government is so big and so massive. It's very hard to tell who's a cop and who isn't. You know, ATF, FBI, you know, when we were sworn in as FBI, we had FBI credentials, and then we had our police credentials. So if we're acting as a federal agent, we had to use our FBI credentials. And I mean, it's so convoluted for somebody, a normal person, to know. And you know, and then any government or police agency is always going to say, well, ignorance of the law is no excuse. Really? I've worked with attorneys and lawyers and state and federal prosecutors, judges. Nobody knows all the laws. I mean, when judges sit on the stand, they don't know all the laws. They depend, if you want to put something in and you've got law to back it up, you better tell them the law. The judges don't know all the laws. You can't go, well, I want this in. Defense attorney will object and say, how come? And the judge will be like, hell, I don't know. Why do you want it in? And unless you can give him something, now he may help you if he knows or he's dealt with that issue. You know, when a judge usually works specific areas in a court. So if a judge is working just domestic violence, he's going to become pretty aware of all the domestic violence laws, case law, the rules, all this for domestic violence. But, you know, if he gets a child custody case, or if he got a robbery case or a murder case, those would all be different because there's all kind of other evidence issues that you need to get things in, get it out. So identifying a cop is not an easy thing. I mean, yeah, he may look like a cop, but is he a cop? Does he have an ID card? Do you have something that you can say if it goes bad and the guy takes off? There was a couple guys, I mean, in agencies up and down California, they were pulling over people with a red light, and they weren't cops, and they were pulling over women. So they would tell people for a while in those counties, until they caught the guy, if you get pulled over by the police, you don't have to stop. You can just drive to the PD. So I can't tell you the number of times that I'm pulling somebody over. I didn't stop a whole lot of women, but if they were driving a car, and you know, I've arrested a grandma, her crook thug, Sereno, Norteño son gave her a car, and she thinks he's the greatest grandson in the world, and the car was stolen. And she didn't know it. They switched the VIN. So, I mean, every once in a while, I would stop little old ladies or ladies. No, normally I went after bad guys with tats who looked like they were gangbangers, young guys who looked like they were no good. Those were my guys I stopped. Yeah, I profiled. Oh, you can't profile. That's crazy. Anyway. So, but when you stop people, you know, if you stop the woman, you pull them over, and it's like, they're not going to stop. And I get on dispatch, and they're like, dispatch goes, I have them on 911, they don't believe you're a cop. I go, well, if you got on 911, why don't you tell them about a cop? Tell her, we did, but she don't want to stop. Okay, great, I'll follow her. You know, and then sometimes you pull people over, and they don't see you, because it's an undercover car, and they're like, I'm not stopping, it doesn't look like a police car. And, you know, my hair was a little bit longer, and I had my mustache. Sometimes I didn't look like a cop, so whatever. That's not a big deal. But if somebody comes to your house, once you open that door, you give the officers an ability to do more. And I'm going to get in that to the other video on when and how an officer gets into your home or your property. And I'll talk about that in the next video. But identifying officer, an ID card's usually best. Then you can tell whether it's issued. It'll give the issuing agency, it'll give the name of the officer, his badge number, and you know, it's an official ID. So asking for an ID is a good thing. A guy in uniform may get upset if you ask for it. Obviously you can do it to be a pain in the ass, just piss the cop off, then the contact's going to go down. But you know, if a guy's dressed like this and I just go, hey man, I'm a cop and here's my badge, and you go, you know what, do you have ID? Then I would pull out my ID and my badge and say, yeah, here you go. And it's not that big of a deal for me, especially if I'm dealing with a righteous person. I'm doing an investigation, I want their cooperation, I want to ask a question, I want to get some information from them. I don't want to be a jerk. Now, if I know you're on parole or probation, you're a punk, you got tattoos, and you're just being cool in front of your homies, I ain't showing you my ID. I'm going to put your ass against the wall, search you, pat you down, put you in handcuffs, and detain you. So, you know, but again, I'd have to know you're on probation or parole or have some other exigency or circumstance to do that, which is easy to get, and I'll talk about that in the house here. So I'll end that there on identifying a police officer, what they're supposed to look like, what your perception is. You know, it's kind of like we tell kids, you know, don't talk to strangers. Well, what strangers don't you want to talk to? They talk to strangers at school when they get to teachers. They talk to strangers at the mall. They see you talking to strangers. They see people that you know that you may not like, but you talk to them. So, you know, don't believe a cop's a cop, but if he's in uniform, he's got a police car. Another thing we used to do, because we were working undercover, if we were going to go in and hit a house, you know, an apartment, you know, a lot of our guys stayed in these motels or hotels you rent around the week, kind of shitholes. So when we go up there in civilian clothes, we don't want somebody jumping out of a room and attacking us, saying, hey, there's a couple guys with guns. We jumped out, we started fighting them. So we would always, it was standard procedure for us to have a marked unit come and park wherever the window or wherever we were knocking, and they would be in the parking lot with their red lights on. And when we banged on the door, someone would hit the siren, some of them wouldn't, but they would be out there with lights. So when somebody looks out the window, they see a marked police unit. They don't see a bunch of guys like us with our guns out, holding it, hanging on, you know, getting ready to come in, and then they can shoot and say, well, I didn't know they were cops. But if we would always put a marked unit there with his lights on to help cover that. So I'll go to the next video on how a cop gets in your house and how to stop them, because I just had a question on that, and it was kind of a unique little situation. All right, we'll end that there.